Hello again and welcome to another Mordy and Glory Warhammer 40k video. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about tournament play. I want to give you some tips and tricks for playing your games quicker. This is a question that comes up all the time in the comment section and on my live streams, and so I thought I would just take a few moments to throw down some ways that I have been able to improve my own speed of play. And so without further ado, let's not mess around any further. Let's mount up, roll out, and drive right into today's episode. Now, before we get to the tips and tricks, I want to address a couple of reasons why you want to be playing your games of 40k quickly. Those that don't know, when you play at a tournament, you are on a time limit. You tend to get 3 hours per round, but that can be as little as 2 hours 45 or even 2 hours and 30 minutes at some venues. So being able to play quickly is very important, because if you run out of time, then you end up not getting through all of the turns. You might not get through far enough where you're able to talk out, or the tournament or your opponent may not allow talking out of final scores. And so you want to try and get through every turn possible to make sure that you get the score that you deserve. It's not good if you win a game because it ended early, and likewise it's not good if you lose a game because it ended early. On top of this, if you're someone like me who plays a lot of horde armies with very high model count, it's incredibly important to be quick, because you also need to beat the perception that is going to be held against you and your army. If someone sees you put down 240 Tyranids, they're going to think your turns are going to take a long time. And so if for some reason the game doesn't end on time, you are going to be the first one that's going to get pointed to and said, well, the game didn't end because he takes a long time because he's got a horde army. And you need to be able to just beat that perception right from the get-go. In fact, I've got to the point now where I can play my horde armies so quickly that my opponents have said, I don't know how you keep up that level of energy. I don't know how you can move things so quickly. And in fact, one of the last ones I went to when I took my pure infantry guard, I played against a death guard guy who actually ended up spending, out of the 2 hours and 45 minutes, he used about 2 hours and 15. I used about 30 minutes. That's how quick it was. When we got to the end of the match, and it had ended only on turn 3, and my opponent was like, oh, well, we have ended a bit early, but that is definitely my fault. You were very, very, very quick. So it definitely helps playing quickly, especially playing Horde Army, because you need to beat the stigma. You need to beat that perception that you are going to be the slow one. You need to prove beyond a doubt that that's not the case.
Attention, Guardsmen! The Commissariat has detected you have not yet liked this video. Do so immediately, or else you will face the Emperor's wrath. And anyone who has not yet subscribed to the channel will be transferred to the penal battalions. That is all. Move out!
But with all of that said, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the video. Now, the first way you can speed up is with trays. Army trays and movement trays. Now, army trays are somewhere, be it a bit of wood, or I've got an actual sort of like tea tray, and it allows you to set your army up in the units before the game, and you can transport your army between games very easily. If you are taking your models directly from the case and then setting them up from there, and then after each game putting them back in the case, that takes an extraordinary amount of time. If you just have a tray next to you whilst you're playing, and you can, as you're taking casualties, put them on the tray in the relevant place in squads, as it were, then it means by the time you finish the game, you will find that your army is already pretty much set up ready for the next one. Now, sometimes, especially running a lot of models, it's not possible to get things exactly into the right squad. So what I will do when I'm using my army tray is I will form my guys into little piles. So I'll have like a pile of guys that just have lasguns, a pile with like sergeants and voxcasters, a pile in another corner that's got like my special weapons. And so when I get to the end of the game, I don't have to try and find where each plasma gunner is in this just morass of infantry. I can go, okay, I'm going to take my infantry here. I'm going to need 6 lasguns, I'm going to need a sergeant, a voxcaster, a grenade launcher, and a melter gun. And I can just do that from the relevant piles, and it's very, very quick. So army trays are good for transporting around. They're also good for getting you ready for the next game. But I also mentioned movement trays. Now, there are all kinds of movement trays you can get your hands on. You can have ones that rank up perfectly, or you can have ones that spread out nicely. One way or another, I have found movement trays to be really, really important for speeding up gameplay. And again, interestingly, it's not necessarily for the actual turn-by-turn blow. It comes down to deployment. If you have a unit of 20 guardsmen, and you have to deploy those one model at a time, that's 20 individual actions you have to do. If you have those 20 guards and split over two 10-man movement trays, you can just put one tray down and the second tray down. That's just 2 actions. It's much, much quicker to deploy using movement trays. And then you'll find that at first you'll move around in the trays, but if later on you need to, screen out and spread out a little bit, that's fine. That's not a problem. The movement trays will just speed you up at the beginning of the game, so you have more time to make those important decisions in the game. You don't have to religiously stick to them throughout the game. Oh, and one last thing to mention about movement trays, it's not just about putting models on the table, it can be really quick for taking models off the table. So what I like to do is my opponent is shooting at one of my guardsman blobs, and he's firing one unit, and then he's firing the next lot of weapons from the unit. Rather than taking the casualties off the tray one at a time, I might be like, okay, roll all your damage. Okay, how much damage did you do? Oh, you killed 10 guardsmen. Brilliant. I'll just take that one tray of lasgun guys off. And it's one action for me to remove models at the same time. And that tray is then pre-set up ready for my army tray for when I go into my next game. But speaking of units, let's move on to the second way of speeding up, and this is standardization. I cannot tell you the number of times I've seen people in games of 40k, even if it's just like other guard players, and they're going to have one unit which has got 20 guys in it, and they'll be like one flamer, one grenade launcher, and a couple of melter guns, and one sergeant's got a bolt gun, and one sergeant's got a las pistol and chainsaw. And then we get to the next unit, and it's another, let's say that was the first unit, it was a Cadian blob. We get to the next unit, and it's another Cadian blob, except for this time it's got 2 plasma guns and 2 flamers, and the sergeants have both got las pistol and chainsword. And then we get to the next blob, and it's another different set of weapons. No. That is going to take up so much time, because you have to keep track of what squad has got which again, when you're setting things up between games, is going to take time. But also when you're in game, you have to okay, yeah, what weapon has that guy got at the front? Oh yeah, this is the squad with the flamers, so I'll roll those. Oh, and what other special weapons have they got? No. You want to have your squads completely standardized. Whenever I go into a game with my Krieg, they always have 2 plasma gun, 2 melter gun, and also 2 grenade launchers. Whenever I go into battle with my Cadians, they always have either 2 grenade launchers and 2 plasma, or 2 plasma and 2 melter. But I never mix and match in the same game. Every single Cade unit in that game is going to have that loadout. Obviously with Kachan it's a bit easier because they all get flamers. But obviously then you've got your infantry squads as well, where it's like, okay, well, they're all going to have las cannons and then plasma guns. But this isn't just for infantry, this applies to your tanks as well. When you are taking a fleet of Leman-Russ battle tanks, you need to make sure they're all equipped the same. Now, you do have a bit of nuance here, so you might say, okay, all of my Leman-Russ battle tanks are going to have battle cannon, las cannon, heavy bolters, El Clasico formation, and all of my exterminators are going to have plasma cannons and las cannons. So I know by just looking at the top what the turret is, I know what the sponsons are. But you don't want to have one exterminator with sponsons and heavy bolters, one exterminator with plasma cannon sponsons, one exterminator with multi-barrel sponsons, because again, you're then trying to keep track of what's where, and it's just going to take up extra precious seconds, which will accumulate into minutes over the course of the game of you just essentially fannying around trying to work out what unit has got what. So if you have a Leman-Russ battle tank in your army, you should know if it's got the battle tank turret, I know what the sponsons are. If I've got an exterminator, if it's got that double autocannon turret, I know what the sponsons are going to be. However, it's not just about the physical models being standardized and you having gaming aids like trays. One of the best ways that you can speed up is with having a game plan. Now, a game plan is really about designing your list and having a strategy that you're going to enact each game. Now, not every game is going to be the same, and rarely does every plan survive contact with an enemy. But what I mean about having a game plan is, okay, you know that there's going to be primary objectives involved. how are you going to handle those primary objectives? Are you just going to turn up and throw your models on the board and just sort of take them as and when they come up? Or do you have a game plan for taking primary objectives? Using my guard as an example, I tend to say that when I'm building a list, I want to have at least 20 to 40 infantry that can move on to each primary objective. This is why I tend to turn up with about 80 infantry in each one of my lists. Now, sometimes you don't want to take blobs of infantry, so you can say, okay, well, I want at least 1 to 2 chimeras with infantry inside to move on to those primary objectives. So you have that in your mind. Okay, I've taken this infantry, it's going to do this job. That way, when it comes down to deployment, you can see, okay, what is the deployment map? Where are the objectives on that map? Where do I need to put my guys down so that I know what they're going to do? Okay, so if I know there's a prime objective over on the left flank and I can see that that left flank might be kind of hotly contested, I'm going to put 40 infantry down there. Now, what are those infantry going to do turn one? They're going to move towards the objective. Why? Because that's what they do in the game plan. I'm going to move them forward. And then turn two, I'm going to start dogpiling them onto the objective. Okay, I've used reinforcements. Where am I going to bring these infantry back? Well, where's the primary objective? Oh, I might be able to sneak in to my opponent's backfield and do a move on to their primary objective at the back because they've not defended it very well. Okay, we can do that. Or, okay, no, it's very well screened out. You know what I'll do? I'll bring those 20 infantry back in a way that where they'll be able to support my push onto the middle objectives. Having a game plan is very important because it's almost like most of your decisions are pre-made. And so you're not having to spend time in the game working out what to do. You know, I'm going to move this tank out here because the plan is that this tank is going to cover the objective. Okay, I know I'm going to move this infantry here because the plan is that these guys take the objectives. I know that my scions are going in deep strike every single game because I've taken 2 5-man squads and their job is to come down and get teleport to homers and to get behind enemy line. So I know what each unit is doing. I know what each unit's role in my general game plan, and the game plan should really be strategic in level. What I mean by that is it should be big picture. If you try and plan out every single move that you're going to do, that's going to fall apart very quickly. Your plan is not going to actually save you time, it's going to cost you time because as the plan unravels, you're going to spend time trying to figure out, okay, well, this unit can't do this now, so I need to move this over here. No. General strategic game plan. What are the units in your list? What do those units do? And how are you going to use them in each game? If you do that, you'll find that your decisions flow naturally from one to the other, and that will allow you to make decisions quickly, and that will save you time. And last, but certainly not least, in fact, possibly the most important way of saving time at a tournament is practice. Practice, practice, practice. You hear some really competitive players who will do a dozen games with one list, just tweaking it very slightly, just fine-tuning it, just so that when they go to the tournament with the list, they know exactly what they're doing with it. Now, some tournament players will actually use one tournament as practice for another one. So I know some people that will go to an RTT, a 1-day 3-round event, with a list that they're thinking of then taking to a super major because they know that might have to go 8 rounds with it. So the more you can practice, the better, because there's a number of reasons why. Firstly, you'll get a measure of what your units can do. So rather than thinking, oh, that's an enemy Land Raider, do I put 2 or do I put 3 Vanquishers into it? Oh, I'm not sure because I'm not sure how much firepower it will take. Because you practice, because you know that your Vanquishers can deal sort of X amount of wounds on average each, you're like, okay, I know it's going to take all 3 Vanquishers to destroy that Land Raider, so I'm just going to line all 3 up. There we go. You've got the practice, you've got the knowledge, you've got the experience, so you then can make decisions quickly because you've already been there before. You've already had the practice game where it might have taken you a bit of time to figure out what you needed to do to defeat a certain enemy unit. Now you know you can make the decision very, very quickly. So practice is good for understanding the capability of your units. It's also very important for making lists more efficient. If you're filling your list with a bunch of fat, with a bunch of just extra stuff, and it's not really doing anything each game, then those are actually units you're having to pilot and use, but also they're just inefficient. And so if a list is inefficient, it might take you longer to achieve your goal. If you've got a couple of units that aren't actually very good, then you're having to use both those units and then more to defeat an enemy unit. That's more dice you've had to roll, that's more time you've had to take in order to achieve what should have been a straightforward enemy kill. Another big thing around practice is allows you to develop a good gut instinct. This is something that I put way more importance on than Math Hammer. People who have watched the channel for a while will know that I'm not a big fan of Math Hammer. A, I can't do it very well, but B, the number of times that I have seen someone in a game go, that should have worked. You know, if you look at the averages on that should shoot that and then that should die. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't take into account cover when you were doing a Math Hammer. You didn't take into account that I could pop smoke on that vehicle. You didn't take into account a whole myriad of factors, which has now meant that you haven't achieved your goal. And so you've Math Hammered things out and it's not worked. You then have to spend time thinking, okay, how am I now going to achieve that goal? If you just practice a lot, you get this good gut instinct, and you can go through entire tournaments just listening to that gut instinct, just being like, okay, my gut just says line these units up here. Okay, my gut just says, ooh, there's a lot of enemy firepower there, I'm going to need 2 blobs of infantry to take that objective. Boom, done. Good gut instinct will save you more time than anything else, and the way to get that is by getting practice in. But that just about covers it all. So in summary, get trays, standardize your units, have a game plan, and practice. Well, at least that's what I think. But of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. What other tips and tricks do you have for playing games quickly when you're on the clock at a tournament, or just in general? If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing, truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members, so thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Mad Larkin, Marcus Roberts, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Wolf, Diesel Fox, and August Varney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.